Courtney, by my watch, it's a little after 8:30.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Courtney, by my watch, it's a little after 8:30. Do we have a quorum?
Sorry, I guess it would help for me to unmute. Yes, if the council members can please share their video or start their video so that we can get see everyone's wonderful faces to get quorum this morning.
Good morning, Randall and Miss Courtney. How y'all doing?
Good morning, Miss Eagley.
We're doing well. Jill, how are you? Good morning.
I'm good.
Good. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. I appreciate your service to the state of Louisiana and all of y'all.
Same to you.
All right, Mr. Brown, I believe we have quorum.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the spring 2021 quarterly meeting of the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council. I'm the chair, Randall Brown, and I'm calling our meeting to order. So again, good morning. Thank you everyone for being here. Welcome to our guest. We'll begin by doing a roll call of our members. And again, as I said, I'm the chair, Randall Brown. And so, Courtney, would you like to conduct the roll call for our members?
Actually, I'm going to ask Miss Hannah Jenkins to do that.
That's perfectly fine. Thank you, Hannah. Could you please take the floor and do a roll call?
Sure. Ms. Banks?
Uh-oh.
Miss Nicole Banks?
I'm here.
Okay. Dr. Baravecchio? Miss Bazil?
Present.
Miss Bayham?
Here.
Mr. Billings?
Present.
Mr. Bristow? Miss Setnar?
Here.
Miss Casse?
Good morning.
Miss Dejan? Miss Eagley?
Here.
Miss Fletcher? Miss Guillory?
Here.
Miss Hagan?
Morning, I'm here.
Miss Hayno?
Here.
Miss Heimel? Looks like she stepped away. Mr. Iddens? Miss Katzman? Dr. McKee?
Present.
Mr. Wynn?
Here.
Miss Polazzola?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Rivera?
Present.
Miss Tarver? Miss Victorian? Miss White? Dr. Wilson?
Good morning.
Mr. Brown?
Good morning.
And Miss Heimel.
Present.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you everyone for being here today. Next, we'll move to our mission and our mission statement and our ground rules for today. So Courtney, if we could put the mission statement up on the screen, please. Thank you. Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council mission statement reads as follows: to increase independence, self-determination, productivity, integration, and inclusion for all Louisianans with developmental disabilities, engaging in advocacy, capacity building, and systems change. The ground rules for today are as follows. The council meeting shall be accessible via Zoom and live streamed on YouTube. Council or committee members will participate via Zoom and shall be considered present when they display a live feed video of their face. And I need to minimize this. Hold on just a second. There we go. Excuse me, y'all. Thank you. Excuse me. Be considered present when they display a live video of their face with their first and last name. Have microphones muted unless called upon by the chairperson. Electronically raise their hand to request the chair recognize them to speak. And that means to press the little hand button at the bottom of your screen, and it will light up, and we will be able to, I'll be able to recognize you to speak. So once recognized to speak by the chair, their microphone shall be turned on. After speaking, the microphone shall be returned to mute. Guests may participate via Zoom or observe meetings live on YouTube. All public meetings shall be recorded and may be made available on the council's YouTube channel as determined appropriate by the chairperson. Public comments submitted during a meeting via any format below shall be considered. During a Zoom meeting, guests may electronically raise their hand to request a comment. Upon being recognized to speak by the chair, their microphone should be turned on. After speaking, the microphone shall be returned to mute. The chat box feature for today, we're trying a different format for just for today's council meeting. The chat box feature for today is unavailable, but again, the formula for the instructions for raising your hand, again, that blue hand at the bottom, I believe, I don't have it on my screen, but I believe it's the bottom left-hand corner. The hand is blue. If you click on it, that will raise your hand electronically, and I'll be able to see it and call on you for you to participate today. So I just want to make that announcement as we move forward here today. You are able to see our meeting today on YouTube, as well as post comments on that live stream at the link listed here below for YouTube. Public comments of a person's character will not be heard. If the comment continues after being asked to stop by the chairperson, council staff may be instructed to end the meeting. The chairperson will notify the executive committee of the occurrence. Council chair will seek guidance to determine if it is legally appropriate to redact or share the video of the meeting on the council's social media. So those are the ground rules for today's meeting, ladies and gentlemen. And so first order of business we have is the approval of the January 2021 meeting summary. And so I'm going to ask for approval by unanimous consent. Does anyone abstain from approval of the meeting summary? And it has been provided for you in your packet. So it has been distributed. So Hopefully everyone's had time to read that. Does anyone object to the meeting summary for the January 2021 council meeting?
Excuse me, Randall.
Yes, Rosalind.
I did not get my pack at all. My packet. I have a question for Hannah
Yes, let's,
because I don't know what really happened to my packet, so I couldn't read my packet at all.
okay, well, Courtney, could we please get with Rosalind and find out how we can best assist her today?
Yeah, so I need the help today.
We will
Please.
certainly get that for you right now. Thank you, Rosalind, for letting me know.
All right. Thank you so much, Randall.
Thank you.
I don't want to be a bother.
And no, you're not a bother. Just bear with us and we'll get you what help we can today, okay? And thank you. So is there any objection to the January 2021 meeting summary? Does anyone object? Okay. Hearing no objection, the meeting summary for January 2021 is approved. Thank you. And the next item we have to discuss is my chairperson's report. It's rather brief. I do want to make a very important point to everyone here today that we have a special meeting scheduled for next week, next Wednesday, April the 28th, from 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. to interview the top 3 candidates proposed by the Executive Director Search Committee and to select a new Executive Director for the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council. Attendance by all appointed council members is essential to this decision-making process. We will be deciding at this meeting who we will select for the position. So it's vitally important that every appointed council member please attend, which is next Wednesday, April the 28th. And then the rest of my overall report is brief. You see a list of meetings I've attended or chaired in the last quarter, in the last 3 months. So listed there. Are there any questions?
Mr. Randall, I have a question. So based on, I will be there on next Wednesday. Whomever the new executive director is for the DD Council, is there like a swearing in? Is it going to take an effect before October of this year, not till next year, next fiscal year?
Yes, they will be in place long before October, and I don't believe there's a swearing in for them. Their process is a little different, but they will begin working as soon as we negotiate the factors for their employment.
I
And that
clicked the
will start
link,
as
yeah.
soon as we select.
I think I know one out of the 3. I know there's 3, but I know the other 2 I don't know personally on the
Okay, well,
professionals.
let's not mention, I know the council's aware of who people are. Let's not mention names today.
Okay. Oh, okay.
We're not going to talk about that here right now. We'll talk about that next week.
Okay.
So we'll talk more about that at next week's meeting. We'll talk all about that at next week's meeting, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions regarding the information in my report?
I do for that. For how many has to really attend to it? Does the whole body
Yeah,
of the DD council has to, or just
We would like for every,
certain ones has to attend?
we would, no, we would like for every council member who is appointed by the governor to attend, which would, that's all of us. So,
So everybody?
yes,
Oh, okay.
I'm calling for every
So,
member appointed by the governor to attend. As with every meeting, we'll have to have a quorum to conduct business, but I want more than a quorum. I want all members who are appointed by the governor to do everything in your power to please attend the meeting. It's extremely important. And I can't emphasize that enough.
all right.
Okay.
For that, is, I mean, what can I say? A login
Yes.
for it?
Yes, we will send you that information, and I'll make certain council staff send you everything you need for next week. And I apologize to you that you don't have your packet this morning, but I will make personally certain that you have everything you need to participate next week. Okay?
Well, yeah. Now you can see where my problem is.
I do see exactly the issue, and I will make absolutely personally certain you have everything you're going to need next week to participate fully. And
Oh,
again,
thank you so
I
much.
apologize to you that you don't have your packet this morning. I'm not sure why that is. I know it was mailed out, and I
Yeah.
apologize, but thank you so much for bearing with us today. Okay.
Oh, hey, that's all right. I could do it. I could swing it.
Well, I appreciate your understanding of us.
Yeah.
Are there any further questions regarding my report?
Ms. Nicole Banks has her hand raised.
Yes, Nicole, you have the floor.
Okay, I know you said that it was mandatory or it's essential for every council member to be at the meeting, but I'm a school teacher and it's state testing that day and I really can't get out of it.
I understand that we all have issues that could arise, that, you know, we're a volunteer body. And so I understand there may be issues that could arise, but this special session call is for every council member who is appointed by the governor to please do your best to attend. So if you cannot, that's up to you, as every meeting is, to attend. You're appointed and have the authority to attend. And as your chair, I'm asking everyone who's appointed to this council to please make every effort to attend this meeting because it's that important. We are literally selecting who will manage our day-to-day affairs into the future. So that's extremely important, as I'm sure we all know. But the call is for everyone who's appointed to please make every effort. And I understand if things happen and you cannot, but please make every effort. And I know it's going to be a long day, just like today, but that was unavoidable. We have a lot of work to do, and it's important work. So please, everyone, make every effort you can to attend. Okay. Are there any further questions regarding my report?
Randall, Jill has her hand raised.
Jill Eagley?
No,
Or
me.
Jill Hana. Okay. Good morning, Jill Hana. You have the floor.
Good morning, Randall Brown. Thank you. I briefly looked over our agenda from Wednesday. Just wanted to double check. We are essentially gonna be conducting 3 interviews.
That's what I'm about to talk about for the executive director search report. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We are conducting essentially 3 interviews. And from those 3 candidates, one shall be selected on Wednesday. By the end of the business meeting, we will have the one candidate we wish to offer the position to selected. By the end of the business meeting. That's why it's so important everyone attend, because we will have our candidate selected for who will be the next executive director of the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council by the end of the business meeting on April the 28th. And again, we will discuss who those candidates are and their background and all of those issues relating to their possible employment with us at the meeting next week, Wednesday, April the 28th. And I will make certain that everyone has the information they need to attend and participate.
Rosalind has her hand raised.
Yes, Rosalind, you have the floor.
I want to leave everybody know I will be moving about. I'm going to be on campus, but I will still be attending a meeting.
Okay, thank you for letting me know, Rosalind. Now, the executive director search report is very brief. As I just stated, we will be selecting among 3 candidates that your search committee selected. We will be selecting among the 3 candidates our partner in the search, Lano, who helped us conduct the process for the search, will be present and assist us with the interview portion. Again, I will fully explain the agenda at that time and what the day will entail. It will look a lot like today as far as the amount of time will be there, except we won't have so many various activities. Our main goal and our only goal for this special session call of the council is to interview and select from the 3 candidates, the one candidate the council wishes to offer the job of executive director to. So that's the overall basic view of what the search process, how it will end. So, and again, we will meet on Wednesday the 28th to select the person who will be our next executive director. There's not really a whole lot I can share other than what I have already shared so far today on that. And so if there are any questions, please feel free to ask. I'll try and answer them as best I can. Are there any questions regarding the executive director search? Okay, hearing none. We can move on to executive committee recommendations. And Courtney, can we put those on the screen, please? For everyone to see.
Sorry, give me just a moment to find that document.
Thank you. Everyone, please bear with us, but it's important that we be able to see these recommendations visually, all of us. And so now here on the screen, you should see the executive committee recommendation. The first being receiving additional federal funds for specific COVID-19 vaccination activities. We need council approval to include those additional funds, which we already have $2,500 allotted for this under activity 2.76. But to give some background, the federal government is providing, and we don't yet know the amount exactly, but the federal government is providing all the states, every state, DD Council, some funding yet to be determined for COVID-19 vaccination activities. And not only are they giving funding, which they haven't yet announced how much, but the funding they are giving, they are also providing rules for how the money is to be used and spent. So we're awaiting both the, what we basically know today is it's coming. What we don't know is how much is coming to us specifically and the exact rules for how we will be able to use the funds we're being allocated specifically. And so the executive committee felt, based on a recommendation from Courtney Rowland, our interim executive director, that the best course of action is for us to place the funds that will be forthcoming from the federal government in with the planned activity of 2.76 that we already had for this item, COVID-19 vaccination activities. So that funding will be added to the $2,500 already allotted for this activity in our fiscal year 2021 action plan. And so we want to allow staff to execute a federally approved activity with required collaborators. And what that means is we have been told that we will be collaborating with our sister agencies and partners, the Human Development Center, I believe, as well as Disability Rights Louisiana. And I'm not sure if there are any I'm leaving off. If there are, Courtney, please enlighten me. But we're all required, we'll all have similar requirements. And the reporting for this will be just like we would any regular activity. And so that's why this recommendation. So are there any questions regarding the first recommendation? Okay, so the second recommendation from your executive committee is we're asking the full council for topic recommendations for the Office of Citizens with Developmental Disabilities webinars. Ms. Jessica Michaud yesterday at our meeting suggested one, which is how to access IFS and FFF family funds. And IFS funds are individual and family support services, and FFF stands for Flexible Family Fund. So we wanted to ask the full council for recommendations because again, this item stems from the gracious offer Julie made at our last quarterly meeting for she and her staff at the Office of Citizens with Developmental Disabilities to work with us on webinars to help with getting access and getting word out about various points in the system, various activities and such that are part of the service and delivery system and such. So if you have any recommendations for videos, we'd like to hear them. As I said, Ms. Michaud gave this one you see before you, but any ideas for topics, please let us know.
Ms. Polizzola has her hand raised.
Yes, Bambi, you have the floor.
Are you asking for recommendations now, or you want us to just get back with you?
If anybody has recommendations now, we'll write them down. If you want time to think about it, just let us just email us, email Courtney or email me, and we'll get those recommendations to Julie and her
And
team.
I don't know, my suggestion may not be directly OCDD, it may be Medicaid. So you can just, correct me if I'm wrong, but Act 421, that's new, which is the TEFRA-like program. I think that's something that people would be interested in understanding how that works.
Sure. Thank you for the suggestion. And again, if anyone has suggestions now, they can tell us now, or you can email us or let us know at any point in time. We're gathering suggestions and we want to make sure the council has their say. Okay, and so
Sorry, Stephen.
Go ahead. Absolutely. Stephen, you have the floor, sir.
I mean, this might be irrelevant in the future, but can we get something regarding what the different type of Medicaid waivers are and who would benefit from what the differences are and things like that?
Noted, sir. Thank you for the suggestion. Are there any other suggestions for topics for videos for the Office of Citizens with Developmental Disabilities?
So I have one.
Yes, Nicole, you have the floor.
So like Ms. Bambi was saying earlier with, the different laws, the new law, Act 421 that just came in. So could could they possibly get a webinar together for all different new laws that's coming into play that maybe people really need to be aware of? And that'll probably give them some topics to cover for the rest of the year.
Your suggestion is noted. Thank you, Nicole. And I believe Miss Kathy Dwyer has a suggestion, and she's a guest with us today. Thank you, Miss Kathy, for being here. Has a suggestion for the Office of Citizens with Developmental Disabilities webinars on how to transition from early steps to developmental disability services. Very good suggestion, Ms. Kathy. Thank you for that. And I want to make clear to the public, these suggestions are open to you as well. And again, you don't have to have one today. If you want time to think about it and you think of one, please just email me. My email is public on our website, the council website. And you can also email Ms. Courtney Ryland, our interim executive director as well, and let us know what that topic may be. And we'll pass that information along to Julie and her team at OCDD, and work to collaborate to get videos made that meet those needs so we can address them. Are there any other comments for videos? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to the third recommendation from your executive committee, and that's to ask for full council, ask full council for celebration ideas for the council's 50th anniversary. Bambi was present at our meeting yesterday and offered to assist with receiving a proclamation from the governor. And so thank you very much, Bambi, for that offer. And we look forward to his proclamation and appreciate his involvement in helping us to celebrate our 50th anniversary. A link on the website with chronological accomplishments and past chairs will also be put up on the website soon, so be on the lookout for that. If we go back to in-person meetings before the end of 2021, before December 31st of 2021, we would like to host a reception like the one that we did for Act 378 30th anniversary, I believe now almost 2 years ago. But we'd like to do a reception if that's possible. We don't yet know that. We're still in the public health emergency and we will remain so for the foreseeable future. But if we can safely do so, we would like to try to plan a reception for our members and the public as well, if they'd like to attend. By all means, please, if conditions permit before the end of the year. If anybody has any further suggestions, I also suggested that we make sure we announce our birthday on social media. And so if there are any other suggestions, we're open to them. And again, you can share them today, or you can email them to Courtney or I and let us know, and we'll do our best to implement everybody's great suggestions here. It's quite an accomplishment in 50 years. And so thank you all for your service today. And those of you who've served previously, we're standing on your shoulders. And so thank you very much. And thank you to the everyone involved in the community and all the work you've done to get us to this point. 50 years is quite an accomplishment. And as we know, many, many things have been done in that period of time by many wonderful people. And so we want to do everything we can to highlight our birthday. It's a great thing. So are there any suggestions? And again, you don't have to have them today. You can let us know at any point in time. Just send us an email or let us know, and we'll be happy to try and implement the suggestions we can.
Miss Rosalind Hemel has her hand raised.
Yes, Rosalind, you have the floor.
Yeah, I have been in between, with us and that. I have been talking with Oklahoma, and they have exact same thing that what we have. They also have a council as well.
Right.
So I've been emerging a little bit with them and seeing, what they kind of do with their council. Yeah. So I have a little bit coming from them. So is there a way that, we could kind of, they say that they have the same thing that what we have.
They do. All states, all 50 states, and I believe 6 of our American territories have a duty council. And so they do have, each one looks a little different based on the state they're in, but we all basically have the same mission based on the Disabilities Act, which is federal law. And so we all basically have the same mission, but we look a little different in how we may carry that out,
Yeah.
state to state. So, but I'm glad to hear you are reaching out and finding out things that our Oklahoma people are doing as well. So thank you.
Yeah, because
For
I think they're gonna have another council meeting this coming Friday, supposedly. So I'm going to attend to that and, kind of get some notes on that as well.
Okay, well, we appreciate that. Thank you, Rosalind.
I just wanted to mention it, to you, to our council as well.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I thought I'll just mention it.
Thank you. Okay, and so the fourth recommendation we have from your executive committee is a survey will be sent to all council members regarding resuming in-person activities. And this is a survey because we want to make sure, we want to get a feeling for how our members are feeling about returning to in-person meetings. I want to make clear we cannot do so until the governor's order for the public health emergency has been lifted. We don't yet know when that will be, but we did have a brief discussion about, and I did direct Courtney and the council staff to begin looking at contracts for how that will, how that will look moving forward, because we haven't met in person for over a year, and so we'll need to begin to start the contract process. So I did direct them to begin that process, and so that as soon as the public health order is lifted, we can begin the work of starting in-person meetings. But we did want to have that in place for whenever the day comes that it's lifted. Can everyone see and hear me okay? My screen went dark.
I can. I could hear you. Right. I hear you clear.
Okay. Let's see here. Courtney, what's on the screen right now?
I'm still sharing the screen with the recommendations from the executive committee.
Okay.
We just finished talking about a survey being sent to all council members regarding resuming in-person activities.
Right.
And then the next two were about motions that were passed in the executive committee.
Okay, I'm going to have to log out and log back in. Something happened to my screen. So could y'all bear with me for just a minute?
Okay.
And I will try to come right back in. I'm not sure what happened. I apologize, but I'm back. Okay, great. I don't know what happened there, but my screen's back on. Good.
Hey, miracles do happen,
They do. Thank you. And thank you all for bearing with us with the technology. We appreciate it. I certainly appreciate it. Okay. And so the survey will be sent soon to all council members, and that's just to get a sense of how our members are feeling about the possibility of returning to in-person activities. And the fifth recommendation from the executive committee is a motion passed to ensure contracts with the Developmental Disabilities Council include language that addresses and identifies cultural diversity and humility, and that selected contractors who work with us are engaging in practices that are culturally inclusive. And the sixth recommendation is a motion also passed for the request of solicitation for proposals advertisement process be inclusive of minority, women, and self-advocate owned businesses. So these are the recommendations from your executive committee. And then the recommendations from the planning committee are there as follows as well.
Randall, if I may,
Yes, you may.
I believe we need a motion on the recommendations from
We do need a motion on the recommendations. And so at this point, I'm calling for a motion to approve the recommendations of the.
I will motion that.
Okay, thank you, Rosalind. Do I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Actually, I don't need a second. Do I, Madam Parliamentarian? Because they come from the executive committee.
That is correct. When recommendations come from a committee, there is no second required.
Right. I just remembered that. Thank you. I'm sorry, y'all. I've had some technical difficulties here for a moment with my internet, so forgive me. So thank you, Rosalind, for that motion. So we can move forward without a second. Thank you, Nicole, for being willing to be the second. We can now move forward. Do we have any public comment? First from the council.
Ms. Bambi Polazola has her hand raised.
Yes, Bambi, you have the floor.
In regards to number 6, do we have some identified disparities in our contracts with women-owned businesses or organizations? I know that we've identified minorities and self-advocates, but I was just wondering, I wasn't aware that we had a disparity with women. And the reason why I ask, because that could grow into a lot of different groups. And I think we should probably focus, if we've identified disparities with certain populations, then I think this is appropriate. But if we don't have a disparity between gender, then maybe that shouldn't be included.
Okay, thank you for that suggestion, Bambi. Any other comments?
Ms. Kathy Dwyer has her hand raised.
Yes, Ms. Kathy, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, DD Council members. Thank you for allowing me to comment. And excuse the noise in the background. My daughter's talking to her friend on the phone. Regarding number 4, will there be consideration to continue accessibility via Zoom for the council meetings so that we can still participate if we can't come in person? Because I find that a great accommodation.
Thank you, Ms. Kathy. That was actually brought up and I neglected to mention during our discussion yesterday. And yes, we are committed to having some way that Zoom participation can continue. Of course, we'll have to look at what the law directs us to do once the public health emergency is lifted. And I want to make clear that we know already that the federal government has extended the public health emergency for the federal government for another 90 days just this week. So we have another 3 months that we know will be in the public health emergency for the federal side. And the governor, of course, will be issuing his orders, which we will follow periodically, and we're keeping up with that. But for the foreseeable future, we know we will be in this format. What we're just trying to do is get an early start on what it begins to look like as we move out of the public health emergency. But let me be clear, until we're out of the public health emergency, we will remain doing business via Zoom as we have been doing now for over a year. But absolutely, Ms. Kathy, that's a great point, that the executive committee and the council as a whole is very well aware of the benefits that Zoom has brought to us in terms of participation. And we always want community participation in our meetings. Our meetings are all public, and we've enjoyed having the involvement from those who might not otherwise be able to attend in person. So as was brought up yesterday, our meeting attendance is way up, and we like that. So we definitely are looking into ways we can fit a Zoom component into our business moving forward. And of course, that will be dependent on what the law looks like that we have to follow once the public health emergency has lifted. So I hope that answers your question, Ms. Kathy.
Thank you. Yes, and I have one more question if you don't mind.
Yes,
or actually suggestion for number 2. 2 suggestions. I put it in the question and answer session, but I wanted to go public with it.
Yes.
I think there also needs to be a webinar for families by OCDD on how to apply for developmental disability waivers. And there should be a webinar to inform families about the regional and state advisory committees, how they can participate and become a member.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for those suggestions.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, and so
if I may.
yes,
Yeah.
Rosalind. Yes, Rosalind.
Hi, if we do go in meeting again in person, are we gonna have the same hotel?
We don't know that just yet, but what we will do as soon as we have that information, we'll make sure everyone is well aware of it in plenty of time, and we'll be able to resume just like we did before we went into the pandemic, before we started Zoom. It will look like that. It will be largely like that, but as you remember from before, but it may not be at that same hotel. We don't yet know, but we will let you know as soon as. That's why I had Courtney, that's why I directed Courtney at our last meeting to begin the process to look for sites to hold our in-person meetings, because it's been well over a year now since we were last in person. So we will have.
Yeah, because I know we was in Embassy Suite. I didn't know if we was going to be still in Embassy Suite or not.
We don't yet have that information, but as soon as we do, we'll make it public. But one of the things that I wanted to do was go ahead and get the process started, so that for the staff to get the process started, so that when the public health emergency lifts at some date in the future, yet to be determined, but we will already be ready to begin that contracting process, which is rather lengthy. So we want to make sure that we get everything we can ready for when that day comes. So as soon as the emergency lifts, we would be able to move forward with getting a contract with the hotel to conduct business with. So we'll let you know as that process moves forward. And certainly when it ends, where we'll be hosting, that'll be made public for everyone to know.
Oh, all right.
Okay. So are there any other suggestions from the council, comments from the council with regard to the recommendations from the executive committee? And I think we need to do our best to answer Bambi's question about a disparity among women. I'm not particularly aware of data on that. Bambi, Courtney, if you'd like to share any details, you certainly may. These two motions were made by our Vice Chair, Dr. Hyacinth McKee. And I believe her intent here, and she's available to speak on it as well. I believe her intent here was to make sure that our contract process was inclusive for all groups, and that was one that she named in her motion. So that's how that language got there. But if anybody has anything to add to that, feel free. Are there any other questions about the recommendations from the executive committee? So Bambi, do you still feel like that the language should be amended for number 6?
I mean, I'm fine. I mean, I'm always an advocate for women-owned businesses. I just was, like I said, just concerned if we, you know, kind of open it up and then someone later on comes and adds another group and another group, it may become overwhelming. So that's why I just said that, you know, have we identified the disparities in certain, you know, demographics, but I'm fine with it.
Okay. Well, we will work to identify it. I can give you that pledge, but thank you for those concerns. Any other comments from council members? Hearing no comments from council members, do we have public comment? Is there any comment from our public members today on the recommendations you see before you for the from the executive committee? That's recommendations 1 through 6 there on the screen.
There are not any hands raised.
Okay, I believe Ms. Kathy Dwyer, who's a member of the public, has already addressed her concerns with it, and thank you, Ms. Kathy, for that. So now I'll call for a vote. And we don't need a second because this comes from executive committee. So do I have any abstentions? Does anyone abstain? Do I have any objections to approving the recommendations from the executive committee that you see listed before you? The 6 recommendations. Are there any objections? Does anyone object? Hearing no objections from the council, the motion passes. Thank you. Our next discussion topic is for the federal fiscal year 2022 planning committee. We met over a period of 3 days. Each of the meetings were very lengthy and exhaustive in discussion. From that came these motions, and the first motion is the motion for full council consideration on continuing the federal fiscal year 2021 activity 2.74, but to request new contract proposals with a scoring preference emphasized on in-state organizations. And the second recommendation that the committee had for us to consider is the need for a motion to adopt the federal fiscal year 2022 action plan that we put together as a planning committee. So the first thing I would like to do is ask for discussion from the council on these two topics from the 2022 Planning Committee. Are there any comments, discussion from the council members?
Highest thing, Nicole Banks and Roslyn have their hands raised.
Okay, let's go in order. So, Madam Vice Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for being recognized. I do have some more questions about number one, and to get some more explanation on the reasoning for the scoring preference and that language of preference being emphasized on state organizations. And I believe that the council needs more clarification on the language that's used. My concern is that when we start using language like preference and we only identify a particular area or demographic, then it asserts a sense of opportunity and privilege for that particular area. So I'm asking that we get clarification on what one would look like for us as a DD council as it relates to contracts, particularly for activity 2.7.
Yes, that's specifically what we are addressing with this motion is that one specific activity.
Yes.
And it relates to.
I know what the activity relates to, Mr. Chair. My concern is the language of using scoring preference and identifying one particular demographical area, because we may run into appearing to be excluding other categories of individuals or entities. So I would need more clarification.
I certainly understand your concern. I know you understand as a member of the planning committee what activity 2.7.4 is, but I was attempting to give some clarity to those who were not present at our meeting as well as the public that I believe this, and Courtney, if we have activity 2.7.4 to put up on the screen, that would be great. So everyone could read it for themselves. Do we have that available? Can we get that on the screen?
And while we're doing that, part two is I would like to know what that actually will look like for our council in terms of establishing a scoring preference. What would that look like? What does that scoring preference entail? And why that demographic?
Thank you. Understood. Everyone bear with us. We're just trying to get the language up for everyone to see. So here's the plan for the potential plan that we put together as a committee. And the activity we're specifically discussing in this motion is highlighted in blue there on the screen, which is activity 2.74. And is to provide financial support to establish a training program on emergency preparedness and response relative to people with developmental disabilities. And we approximated a cost of $20,000 for this activity. And what we're asking in the motion is that preference be given to in-state, to Louisiana entities that do this particular work. And so that was the intent of the motion as it was made that day, was to give preference to companies or entities that do this type of work routinely in our state, because it was felt like we have many people who are doing the work. The current contract holder, I believe, is an out-of-state entity. And it was felt by several members of the planning committee that we have several entities in the state of Louisiana doing the work and doing it well was pointed out of emergency preparedness. And so this motion was made to give preference. That's not saying that people, and we made a point to say in the meeting, that's not to say that anyone could not apply. Everyone who does this work and qualifies and wishes to do so can apply. But we felt it important, at least the committee felt it important, to give a preference to Louisiana-based businesses or entities that do emergency preparedness work and response work, because we have several entities and companies that do the work very well and know the state very well. And so that was the reasoning for the motion. And if a member who was present would like to better give their insight into it, I'm open to that. That's just my recollection of the discussion as it pertained to this activity. Scoring system, I believe we talked about, and I believe it was suggested that 1 point would be added, 1 extra point would be added in the scoring, so that for a Louisiana-based business, based on this motion, if it were to pass, so that you'd give 1 extra point just because they're in state, and we want to give them the opportunity to shine. We are the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council, and we obviously want to, in every way we can, benefit the people of Louisiana, and that was the intent here. And I understand, Madam Vice Chair, your concern, but I believe that was the intent here, was to give just minor preference for those who are being considered that are part of the state and do this work. So that's my best explanation I can give on the matter. And again, I believe my memory may be foggy, but I do believe that we discussed possibly giving 1 point extra. And if I'm wrong about that, staff or anyone who was present for that discussion, please correct me. But I think that was our intent there. So there's the language on the screen. I'll read it again. It's activity 2.74.4, provide financial support to establish a training program on emergency preparedness and response relative to people with developmental disabilities. And we approximated the approximated cost for this year was $20,000, and we carried that forward into the recommendations for the 2022 plan. Are there any further discussions or questions?
Nicole Banks and Rosalind Hemel have their hands
Oh,
raised.
yes, I'm sorry. Nicole, you have a question?
Thank you. I was waiting. Okay, so I was with Miss McKee when she was talking about the levels that you guys were, hold on, let me go back to the. Oh, it's not up anymore. Okay, well, she was talking about the ratings, like the scoring part. Are you guys going specifically off of the contract, or you guys are just basing this off of, and I know what you're saying, I get why you guys are doing, why you're doing it, because I want things to go for Louisiana too. But is this scoring, is this held with the Louisiana companies and the outside company? Is it the same scoring, or is it something different? I know they get an extra point, but is it something different?
It would be the exact same scoring. There would be no extra scoring. There would be just, the concept was raised of 1 extra point just because it's a Louisiana-based business. I believe was discussed.
Okay.
But beyond that, it would be the exact same scoring rubric as every other. For each candidate, it would be the exact same scoring rubric. Each proposal would have the same scoring rubric. There would just be an extra point added because it is a Louisiana-based entity.
Okay, and one more question. It's a training program that provides emergency readiness. Now, is this going to be included like as far as the natural disasters? Because I see that up on the activity 2.7.5, but it doesn't say that it's in any kind of training. It just said this is a response. So a part of the activity 2.7.4, is the natural disasters going to be a part of the training? Because in Louisiana, you know, we already are dealing with hurricanes.
I believe they are, yes.
Okay. That was my only two questions.
Thank you. And Rosalind, you have questions? A question?
Yeah. So like you were saying, I'm going to go off for what you said. Is that for the $2,000? Would that ever go up for every candidate?
No, not for the candidate. These are contracts that we would do for activities that we want done. Activities are things that we decide as a council, this is work we want to see happen. And once we decide that, like we do here in these activities you see on the screen, then we have to decide how much we want to give, which we call allocate, to that activity. How much money do we want to see go for that year? So the money you see in black, bold there for each activity, that's for this year. And then I don't believe we really adjusted these much. We just carried them forward because the work is important. We discussed it at length. And so I believe just about every activity that we retained the same amount of money. But no, the money you see would be for the year.
All right, but like I'm also with that being said, would it go up for next year for all
It could, because every year, because we do this based on a 5-year plan. And so each year in the 5-year plan, we look in that year or the year coming, like this is 2021 we're in right now. So we're talking about 2022 actually, which is next year, the first year of our new 5-year plan, by the way. So that we're talking about it now so we can implement it next year. And so if we decide it needs to go up, then there will be another planning committee meeting for the 2023 plan. And then, so each year of the 5-year plan, we'll meet that year to discuss the next year's goals and objectives. And that's where something could be modified in our activities, including the amounts given. So it could go up, yes. For this year, we're considering, no. Once we decide on an amount, that's the amount that would be used for that activity for the year mentioned. But if we decide next year that went really well, or that wasn't able to be carried out as planned, we can adjust the amount at our next planning committee meeting. So it's done on an annual basis.
Does that include for the centers for everybody, or that's just for the state of Louisiana?
No, this has to do with the activities of the Developmental Disabilities Council, the things we want to use our money and our resources for to help address needs and concerns that have been identified that are in line with our 5-year plan as well. And so these are things, most of these things you see in the plan are things we're already doing, and it was determined by the committee that most of it needed to remain because it was important, and important work still needed to be done in these activities. And so what you're seeing here as part of the plan is our activities and objectives for next year for the council, for the DD council, for our council.
That's what, I thought it was for each center. That's why that made me kind of.
No, this is our activities for the 2022 fiscal year, which is next year, for the DD council.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to see, where the money was going.
Sure. And thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions with regard to the activity?
Hyacinth,
2.7.4.
sorry, Hyacinth McKee has her hands raised.
Dr. McKee, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, I'll be very brief, and I appreciate you allowing me to speak again to this particular topic. Again, I want to press upon the council that we should be mindful when we use the language as preference. We will open the door to all kinds of questions when the language of preference is used. I think we need to be more focused on what's the best programs for individuals and our families in Louisiana, regardless as to what state is coming from. We should be looking at what's the best nationwide to serve our people. I recognize the importance of buying local, like Rouse's typically says, buy local. But certainly if I'm able to get something that is of importance or healthy from another region that is better for me health-wise, I'm not going to give a preference to something just because it came out of Louisiana. So I think my concern is the language of preference, because it can imply excluding other opportunities for the residents of Louisiana. With that being said, I would like to ask that the chair recognize Mitch Iddens, because I believe he had his physical hand up, but it was not the electronic chat. So if he's still on, I'm asking the chair to recognize him.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
did not see that, so thank you for bringing that up, Madam Vice Chair, and thank you for your comment here. Yes, Mitch, you have the floor, sir, and I apologize, I didn't see your hand raised.
Randall, thank you. I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand. I finally figured it out, but my question has been answered during the discussion, so I don't have any comment at this time.
Okay, thank you, sir, and thank you for being here today.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so would we be open to changing the language of the motion? Since the vice chair raised her concern is establishing the word preference in our plan. And so would it be better to say with emphasis given to in-state organizations? That's just a suggestion.
Stephen Wynn has his hand raised.
Yes, Stephen, you have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you have the floor, sir.
Another way to word it is maybe considerations, strong considerations. I don't know if that changes anything, but that's another option.
Madam Vice Chair, how do you feel about the language change of?
I am amendable to considerations because it doesn't lend to privilege.
Okay. So, Madam Parliamentarian, do I need a friendly amendment to amend the motion, or can we just amend it here?
Well, it would just be an amendment in the form of a motion. I move to amend the current motion to say, and then the second and discussion and then the vote.
Thank you. Yes, I thought so. I wanted to make sure of that. So, okay. I can't see the screen now at the moment. Let's see. Yes.
Randall, this is Mitch.
Yes, sir.
I just have one question for the council. Did this come about because the committee felt like there weren't enough Louisiana-based businesses that were applying for this or would apply for it? I mean, what was the basis?
No, it came about because the feeling was from several members that in discussion that they know we have Louisiana companies that are already doing this work and doing it well, and their intent here is and was to ensure that those Louisiana businesses are supported, but not in a way that's exclusionary of any other contracts. They just wanted to have a way to give some benefit to our local and native entities and companies that we know are doing this work and doing it well. That was
so simply by a Louisiana-based business applying, they would get an extra point just for simply applying, and as a Louisiana-based business, would that be the reason they would be giving an extra point? Because, hey, I'm a Louisiana-based business, I'm interested in this contract, and give me an extra point because I'm a Louisiana-based business.
Yes. That was, I believe, the intent. If I'm wrong, staff or someone that was there in the discussion, please correct me, but that was the intent, was no one's excluded from any of our contracts. It's just to make sure that there was some mechanism for, giving consideration is the new word, which I believe is a good one, to businesses that are in Louisiana who are doing this work. And it's not to say that companies outside Louisiana don't do this work and do it well. It's just to say that if we know a company or entities, more than one, are doing this work and doing it well, then we want to give an opportunity for them to be considered because they are in state and because, as Madam Vice Chair pointed out, the slogan to buy local. I think the intent here is to support locally businesses and our fellow Louisianans who we know do the work, and of course they have to do the work well.
This is on a scoring basis, so does by giving an extra point to a Louisiana-based business that might apply, put other potentially, like Dr. Hyacinth McGee said, other companies at a disadvantage that maybe could do the job better. If you're doing it on a scoring basis, it just seems like it automatically puts other businesses at a disadvantage. I mean,
well, I can understand. I do understand that. I will say that when we use a scoring system, in every instance we've used it, we don't just say, well, they got the top score, they get the contract.
Okay.
There's then discussion based on the scoring as to why that score is what it is, and who we feel, is the better fit for the contract based on a number of factors, not just a score on.
Okay. All right.
The rubric just helps us to sort of get a sense
down.
of who are our best candidates.
I got you. Okay. Well, that makes
and
sense.
leads to in-depth discussion. I've never participated somewhere where we said, well, they got the top score, that's it. It's never that simple. We have
it kind of helps narrow down.
discussion.
It kind of helps narrow down the best candidates.
Yes, that's the intent of a rubric. Yes, in this case, and we've never, to my knowledge, done different than that in our uses of a rubric. It just helps facilitate discussion. in this case, it would be entities that do emergency preparedness work.
Well, I agree that maybe we should, and I think there was some comment about changing the language. I kind of agree with that, that preference may not be the appropriate language in the motion.
Right. And again, this was just based on how we always do, where we put our heads together, and we'll do it here today, I'm sure, where we put our heads together and we try to come up with the best language in the motion. And so I don't think there's any objection to changing the wording to consideration, and has already been done so now by Courtney. And I would assume everyone is in agreement with the new change. Is there any objection to the wording as it now is now stated on the screen? I'm sorry, preference. Okay, so the move to amend of the original motion is to state continuing federal fiscal year 2021 activity 2.7.4, but to request new contract proposals with strong consideration given to in-state organizations. Is everyone in agreement with that new language? Is there any objection to the amended motion as it now reads, with the change from preference to strong consideration given?
Sorry, I have a quick question if I may.
Yes, you may.
Just for staff clarification purposes. So if we do amend the motion to just state with strong consideration given to in-state organizations, does that remove to add 1 point on the rating form for in-state organizations, or how is staff to interpret?
I would think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, counsel, I would think that that would remain. That would be the strong consideration, is the extra point on the rubric, because they're a Louisiana-based company or entity. It's just, we don't want the word preference in the language. Dr. McKee, you have the floor.
No, that is not the intent. I am very concerned with a point, just like my fellow colleague Mitchell Iddens mentioned, just being given and assigned because you are a Louisiana-based company, that you get an extra point just because you're Louisiana-based. I believe that if we open up that door, we are going to have some serious questions regarding how we are issuing contracts using this subjective privilege information. So no, that is not the intent of the amended motion. It's just saying strong consideration, not to modify the scoring rubric.
I didn't mean to put words in your mouth. I'm trying to move us forward.
That's okay. Thank you. Not to, Mr. Chair, I would like to finish my statement. Thank you. Not to modify.
Let me ask you, Dr.
It's okay. I think we have some technical stuff. That's all right. It's a delay.
Yeah, there is a delay. I'm not trying to interrupt you. There's a huge delay between this. So please continue.
That's okay. Not to modify the existing scoring rubric, which I don't believe we have on the existing scoring rubric anything about residency. So the issue is not to modify the scoring rubric, Courtney. It's just, I guess, like Mr. Chair says, when the committee goes into discussion, that may lend to some credence to, the opportunity to the contract, but not to modify the existing rubric to add an additional point because you are a Louisiana business.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Madam Vice Chair. Sorry for the confusion. So is everyone okay with the language change to the motion as it has been amended? The strong consideration given, and that would be during discussion for clarification, during the discussion phase of the contracts and activities, consideration, Louisiana businesses be considered strongly, but with no changes to the rubric for scoring.
Stephen Wynn has his hand raised.
And that's just for staff clarification on that. Yes, Mr. Wynn, you have the floor, sir.
Hi, I just wanted to clarify. Dr. McKee, you said that you wanted to remove from strongly consider to consider. Was that my, I think that was my understanding, was that you wanted to remove the word strongly and just put considered?
No, Stephen, I didn't have any problem with the new amended language. I believe the question that Courtney was asking was the scoring rubric going to be adjusted to reflect that an additional point will be given for Louisiana residents. And I believe staff wanted clarification on what that looks like for them. I'm saying that
Correct.
the consideration will be during the discussion and the rubric would not be modified.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to go back and just make sure the verbiage was correct because I said strongly consider, but I felt like you took the word strongly out.
No, I'm not taking that out.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So do we have any more discussion of the language of the amended motion before us? And I'll go ahead and reread it since we've been discussing for some time now. It's the move to amend the original motion to state continuing federal fiscal year 2021, activity 2.7.4, but to request new contract proposals with strong consideration given to in-state organizations.
Jill Hayno and Rosalind Hemel have their hands raised.
Yes, Jill, you have the floor.
I think I just answered my own question.
Okay.
But looking on, y'all don't have the 2022 draft in front of y'all. Yes, because I'm looking both back and forth from 21 to the 22 draft, and I don't see on either activity the word preference, like in like
That when we made the motion in it, I don't believe it is listed in the plans at this point. This was a motion to consider adding that language to that activity. So it has not yet been added to either. It was not added last year, so it's not there. It would not be added this year unless this motion passed.
That makes sense. My bad, y'all.
No. It's not bad at all. You need clarification. That's what this is all about. Thank you for bringing that up, Jill.
And then what is this rubric y'all are referencing? Because I was on the 22 planning committee,
right?
But we didn't. The 22.
We had a lot of exhaustive discussion, did we not, over a period of 3 days? And thank you so much for your
So confused. So we didn't receive I'll get it out. I promise. Our committee didn't receive any proposals to review.
Correct.
So,
This would be only if we did not have a solicitation of proposals in
right,
this case. We just looked at activities that are already in place, and due to COVID, a lot of those are still ongoing in ways that, you know, are unique. And so we chose to move most of those forward another year. This would be for when we have new proposals.
oh, okay. So this is a future rubric.
Yes.
Rubric.
Yes. Correct.
That's a hard word.
Yes, indeed. This would be for, we use rubrics whenever we are
The listening.
yes.
Okay.
Essentially, yes. And
All
so
right.
this would be in the case where we use a rubric, this would apply.
Okay. I'm caught up.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for your service to the planning committee.
Oh, my pleasure, Mr. Brown.
Okay. And so,
Oh, Rosalind Hemel has her hand raised.
thank you. I couldn't remember who. Rosalind, you have the floor.
Yeah. In this one, it's a little confusing to me. Maybe you could help me out with it. And because what it is that I know we've been discussing it, you know, in that, but I need to have like a little light. Why is it when recommend a, like, what is this when you say like a recommend new with that with strongly, but why is it with the word strong with it? Because that's what I'm not getting.
Okay, well, the intent of the committee, or several members of the committee, felt strongly that Louisiana businesses and entities are doing this work already and doing it well was the feeling. And so this is our best attempt to acknowledge that fact and to, without making the process unfair to anyone who wishes to apply to any of our contracts, this is our best attempt at making sure that Louisiana-based businesses or entities that do this kind of work related to this activity, 2.7.4, can be given consideration in discussion during the selection phase. Does that help?
Yeah, it do, because I was like sitting here like trying to figure it out. Right. Why it had to be with strong terms. I could never get.
Okay, and I think that's because the committee felt strongly about it, that Louisiana businesses need to be given strong consideration because they're doing the work in state and doing it well. So the amended motion, I need for someone to move for that amended motion, and then I need a second for the amended motion.
I could second it.
Well, I need someone to
motion
make it. So are you?
Oh, I could do that. I could make it.
Thank you, Rosalind. So made by Rosalind. And seconded by, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Miss Nicole Banks. Thank you, Nicole. And so now I open the floor to discussion of this for the public. Do we have any public discussion of this motion?
No hands are raised.
Okay, thank you. And so now the amended motion is ready the question is posed. And so we're ready for a vote. Do I have anyone abstain? Are there any abstentions to this motion? Does anyone abstain? Are there any objections to the amended motion on the screen? Does anyone object to the motion made by Rosalind and seconded by Nicole Banks? Are there any objections? Hearing no objection, the motion passes. Thank you. And so I believe the next thing we had to consider, I don't have my screen.
Wasn't on mute. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Let's see. Okay. Everyone bear with me just a second, please. Now, there we go. And so on the screen before you see the proposed action plan for the federal fiscal year 2022, which will be the first year of our new 5-year plan. And these are in red. You see the proposed activities as the committee worked on them and exhaustively over a 3-day period. Everyone had frank discussion about the topics, about the activities and amounts listed therein, but in red are the changes, correct, Courtney? Are the proposed?
Correct.
Okay, and so there on the screen you see the plan and the changes with the allocations listed for each activity for 2022 federal fiscal year, which is again the first year of our new and pending 5-year plan. I know it's a lot to review.
I have a question.
Yes, Nicole, you have the floor.
Were we given this already? A copy of this? Or at least somewhere where we can access it?
It was linked to the agenda and is also available on our website, linked to the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know it's a lot of information, so feel free to click on that link at your leisure and read through it. But this is we're providing it so we can get a sense of what changes were made by the committee. Again, the activities in red are proposed for the federal fiscal year 2022. Are there any questions?
You have a hand raised in the public. Miss Ashley Kellett.
Yes, Ashley, you have the floor.
Yeah, my question is, forgive me because I was trying to read very quickly. But my question was, is there anything in here that was proposed for accountability for appropriation of funds for our kiddos? And as far as also the IEP being followed, and you know, is there any type of?
We're moving to that portion now. Give us just a moment, please.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just didn't
No,
know.
no. Thank you. Thank you for your participation today. It's just the plan is rather lengthy, so we're moving to that range of activities now.
Do I remute myself?
And so here you see listed the activities related to education. Are there any questions that I need to answer with regard to that, or does sharing the information help that, Ashley? Help you? So again, this range of activities you see in red before you on the screen, activity 3.1.2 to activity 3.1.8 address our activities and stances with regard to education for the federal fiscal year 2022, the first year of our new 5-year plan. And again, we had extensive discussion on each one of these activities and topics over a period of 3 days. Each meeting was no less than 2 hours, I believe. So this was thoroughly vetted and discussed a number of ways. But I certainly am open to questions.
Jill Hayden has her hand raised.
Yes, Jill, you have the floor.
I think yelling hold on when I'm trying to unmute will help y'all hear me. But when we were doing this, I didn't realize that 3.31, the post-secondary inclusive education LAPI, was a contractual activity. When did we, Brendan, maybe this is a you question, but when did we obtain that contract? Does anybody know?
If I may answer?
Yes, ma'am.
So actually, the Post-Secondary Inclusive Education Alliance activity is in its 2nd year. So we actually did a solicitation of proposals 2 years ago for this. So this, to my knowledge, in the time that I've been on the council, has been the only activity that we intentionally established to be a 2-year activity when we first issued the solicitation of proposals.
Okay, and is there any way that I can get a copy of that contract?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
Miss Ashley Kellett from the public has her hand raised.
Yes, Ashley, you have the floor.
I'm so sorry. I'm really like not good at the Zoom thing. I don't know how to unmute and mute myself. I guess my question again still arises from the accountability factor. I don't really see that portion. Although I appreciate the inclusion piece, which is something I've been fighting for such a long time. And this is actually, I'm new to this forum, in which I'm so excited to see this. Someone actually sent me this link. I'm new to Partners this last year, and
welcome and thank you for being
here.
here.
So I have 3 special needs children. I've had my oldest son's was 20. So I've been fighting for a long time. I have a little girl with Down syndrome, and she's 7 years old, and so I have my fight against me. And I'm also have disabilities of multiple sclerosis and epilepsy, and thyroid. I'm a cancer survivor. So I want the accountability factor is the problem, is the following the IEP, is implementation of the IEP, and then the interpretation of the IEP is a problem as well, because as we know, we all have different interpretations of an IEP. But where's the accountability factor as far as are they really implementing it? Like, how do we know there's an implementation of the IEP there? Because my daughter has accomplished 0% her IEP for the last 3 years, and yet there's and when asked, for proof or give me tell me what you're doing, what you're not doing, other than telling me the same thing over and over again, there's nothing written. There's no one to go out, and even when I asked, hey, can I sit in, I was denied that. So like,
have you been in touch with or worked with your local Families Helping Families?
Oh yes, I've my case is kind of extraordinary. I was sued by Livingston Parish School Board. I'm still undergoing the process of all of that drama, and it's craziness. But she went 11 months with no schooling through the whole COVID thing, and then her documentation was completely fabricated. Like, they lied on her. They did a post-COVID assessment, and they no post-COVID assessment. That kind of stuff. Where's the accountability, I guess, is my question.
Great question. We, in the scope of our advocacy, one of the things that's very important to us is accountability. And the reason I ask about your family centers is they do work in this very area, helping to prepare you for the IEP process. And I believe also will participate with you upon request in that process. And so that's why I asked if you get in touch.
No, I'm not talking about that. Like, I'm very, very schooled on that process.
Okay. And so that's just I misunderstood you. I'm sorry. So
no, that's okay.
What type of accountability?
Like, I guess in general for our children, like the implementation, like for instance, okay, like just like an example, like, and unfortunately I learned this later in the game, but like my oldest son did not get an invitation to senior pictures. We missed senior pictures, right? So then I found out later that he wasn't allowed to sit with his senior class for pep rallies. Then I found out there was a table for special needs kids. He couldn't even sit at lunch with people. And then I found out there was other parts of the IEP that weren't being implemented. It just kind of came along, and it was kind of a string of events that occurred that I learned over a period of time. Unfortunately, he's my first child. So like, unfortunately he became the guinea pig. But I found out over a period of time that as it unraveled, that he actually wasn't getting the IEP that was actually in place.
God.
And so it was very, very sad to me. He said, they just lock us away in a room, Mom. And so it was a situation of had a state, a third party person been in there to make sure, in addition to that, education to the regular ed teachers. Like I would love to see co-teaching, like and that kind of thing. But a third party person to go in there to make sure implementation of the IEP is actually being done, and that they really are, even though like an assessment where they sit there and they have evaluations by their principals. What about an evaluation of a third party, going in there and assessing these teachers to make sure that they really are implementing the IEP? And most of these regular teachers don't even know what's on their students' IEPs. It's an unfortunate thing, but it's the truth.
Well, and your comments are certainly noted here today. In terms of our plan, it has to be broad because it covers a multitude of situations as we are made aware of them. And so in terms of enforcement, we will advocate and do so strongly, and we take your comments today as noted in advisement, as part of our advocacy in all of these educational efforts. Of course, we want access. We want equal and fair treatment of our community, students in our community and families.
Mhm.
So
Thank y'all.
it is, you are heard. We hear you.
I appreciate you guys so much.
And we make sure that as we move forward with those objectives you see listed and activities listed, your comments are noted, and we will look at our advocacy in ways we can better work towards getting those needs addressed.
Y'all are doing such a wonderful job of doing this. It would just be such a shame to see all of these efforts put into effect, but then no one making sure that they're being done.
That your concern is noted.
Thank you.
Thank you. And at this point, we have reached our point for a 10-minute recess break. And so with no objection, I'm going to call for a recess. It's now 10:30. So if we could return back at 10:40 to resume discussion. With no objection, we will now move to a 10-minute break.
Excuse me, Randall.
Yes, Rosalind, yes.
Can I ask for the meeting that we have to attend to, what day is that on?
The other meeting is on April the 28th.
The 28th?
And it's just like the times are just like today. It's 8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. on April the 28th, which is next Wednesday.
Oh, okay. So that's like the 28th?
And so we're now in recess. Yes, it's the 28th until 10:40 a.m. We'll come back at 10:40 to resume discussion. Thank you all.
Same time?
Yeah.
From like 8:30
8:30
to 30?
8:30 a.m. to 3 p.m., I believe.
Rosalind, this is Brenton. Earlier this morning, I resent you all of the information that I sent out last week. So check your email. It'll have the date, the times, all the documents you need, as well as the link.
Because I did it and I'm like, I'm stuck. So I'm confused.
So Courtney, by my clock, it's now 10:41. Do we have a quorum to resume business?
If I can ask all council members to please start your video. Thank you. We now have a quorum.
Thank you, Courtney. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So we need to resume discussion of the federal fiscal year 2022 action plan. And we were on the part of public discussion. So I'm calling for that to resume. If there's any public discussion of our federal fiscal year 2022 action plan. I don't know if you want to put that back up on the screen, Courtney, so that we can see it. I know it's lengthy, but if you might want to put it back up in some fashion. There we go. That's where we left off, was discussion of the education portion of the plan, activities related to education.
Nicole Banks has her hand raised.
Yes, Nicole, you have the floor.
Yeah, I was gonna say it before we had went to break, but you had already went to break, so I was like, okay, I'll just wait till we get back. So in regards to Miss Ashley, that Ashley brought up a really good point with us having someone there to ensure that the implementation of the IEPs are there. I'm just gonna give her a suggestion because I have 2 kids with IEPs and one with a 504. You have to actually ask for that kind of stuff. And how you do that is you ask them to set up either a class dojo or a Remind app, and that is going to track the process of them actually implementing the services, and you can get it every day, daily. All they got to do is go in there and press the buttons and be like, okay, this is what I did with them today, and that's what I did. So maybe you can have them implement that into the IEP, because I know I did that with mine. Just a suggestion for her, just so that she's like she having a lot of trouble with it, so that she can kind of, make some movement.
Thank you very much, Nicole.
Okay.
Is there any further public discussion of our federal fiscal year 2022 plan from our public visiting members today?
No hands are raised.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. So I believe now we are ready for a vote. So we have approved the language of the motion from the planning committee. And now we need to approve that language as written, in addition to approving the federal fiscal year 2022 action plan. Do you have a motion to do that? To accept the amended language of the motion from the planning committee, the amended motion we accepted, to accept that amended motion along with accepting the plan for federal fiscal year 2022.
Randall, this is Mitch. I make a motion to accept the amendments.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Then is there a second motion?
You are the second, Rosalind. Thank you.
Thank you.
So does anyone abstain from this motion? Are there any abstentions? Does any member abstain? Does anyone object to this motion? Are there any objections to this motion as is on the screen before you? And again, that amended motion you see here made by Mitch and seconded by Rosalind is to continue the federal fiscal year 2021 activity 2.7.4, but request new contract proposals with strong consideration to be given to in-state organizations and to adopt the federal fiscal year 2022 action plan as proposed by the 2022 Planning Committee. So we'll be adopting the amended language as well as the plan for 2022 that we have seen and discussed here this morning from the Planning Committee. Are there any objections? Hearing no objection, the motion passes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. At this stage of our morning, I'm going to call on our interim executive director, Ms. Courtney Ryland, to be recognized to give her executive director's report to us. So Courtney, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for everyone being able to participate this morning. I'm going to share the executive director's report on the screen. It might be a little too large. Let me use that just a moment. All right. So the Office of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities / Administration for Community Living had another regional engagement call, and there is a possibility that another no-cost extension for our 2020 federal funds may be extended. As soon as I became the interim executive director in August, I was notified by ACL that there was an application process for our 2019 funds to be extended, but I had to apply for that. It was not an automatic extension. So I did that and we were granted that extension. So I'm waiting to receive the official words from our federal partners that this extension will be available. And once that's made available, I will definitely, or the next executive director will apply for that extension for our 2020 funds. And as we had also mentioned, that the all state councils will be receiving additional funding that is specifically to be used for addressing COVID-19 vaccinations. And once I get the amount that Louisiana Council will be allotted, and given the final regulations on how we are allowed to spend that money, we will definitely get the ball rolling on that, because there's a lot that will be tied to that, to receiving that the additional funds. But I believe we've already agreed to incorporate what's now on our action plan with the allotted $2,500. We're going to add that to the pot of money that the federal government gives us, so that we can, make sure to do that activity as it's addressed on our action plan, our 2021 action plan. All right. Next item was the National Association of Councils on Developmental Disabilities. will be hosting a meeting with council executive directors to discuss the current rule on the period of performance, which is a federal report that is required every year. And when we receive funding, we have 2 years to plan how we're going to spend that funding. And then we have 1 year in order to spend it once we've obligated those fundings. So in July of 2019, they had actually changed the ruling on this. It had previously been a 3-year period of performance, but in July of 2019, it went back to a 2-year. And a lot of the council's executive directors opposed this change. And so they're going to take efforts to try to get the change reversed to where we go back to a 3-year period of performance. So there's some things going on with our federal reporting that they're wanting to change. Also, they announced that they'll be hosting the 2021 Executive Directors Annual Leadership Summit in Providence, Rhode Island. So it will be in person from October 17th through October 21st. And unfortunately, that's the same week that we are scheduled to conduct our quarterly council meetings. So I don't know what the new executive director is going to ask to do regarding that. So the Advisory Council on Student Behavior and Discipline has met a few times this previous quarter, and they actually developed a subcommittee or a work group to help tackle some specific issues that they wanted to create accountability for. And Representative Jason Hughes has filed a bill which the Advisory Council helped to create. So I will continue to work on that Advisory Council unless the new executive director sees otherwise.
Rosalind Hemel has her hand raised, Courtney.
Thank you. Randall, may I call on Rosalind? Or
yes, you may. Sorry. Yes, you may.
Hi, Ms. Heimel, you have the floor.
Yeah, can you kind of stroll back down a little bit?
Okay, to which?
I have a question for right here. It's the way you say with leadership in that for the October 17th through the 21st. Yeah, right there.
Yes, ma'am. What's your?
You know, you got me scratching my head with all of that right in there. Even with the NACDD as well. Now, is that for this year or is that for next year's 2022?
Actually, this is for this year. This is for 2021. NACDD will be hosting all of the executive directors from all of the state councils will be coming together in Providence, Rhode Island to do a leadership summit. So this is just for executive directors of the councils, of all the state councils.
Now, the other question I do have is, what is NACDD?
That stands for that stands for National Association of Councils on Developmental Disabilities.
Because you had me lost up on that, and I'm like, totally, I couldn't even catch.
So did I happen to answer your question?
Does that mean, for the question, do we have to, all of us in different states have to meet up? Or do we have to kind of go individual and, you know, get the reports?
Okay, so the meeting that we were talking about here is just for executive directors. So it's not for council members, it's for the executive directors. So does that help answer your question?
Yeah, because I was confused.
No problem. And I apologize for the confusion.
That's okay. Can I get the what the NACDD stand for?
Sure, I'm going to highlight it on the screen. So can you see that? It says National Association of Councils on Developmental Disabilities.
Hmm?
Okay. Ms. Heimel, did you have any more questions? No. Okay.
That was about it out of it, because me, when I start scratching my head, I'm like, I don't know what to do.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and continue if that's okay. All right. So during this past quarter, myself and other council staff and Mr. Randall Brown participated in a meeting with the Louisiana School Board Association. And the intent of that meeting was to try to reestablish a positive working relationship between our agencies. Unfortunately, they had some issues from the past that they wanted to discuss and make sure we're not going to continue before they would want to potentially collaborate with advocacy efforts with us. But we have begun to make those repairs with that relationship, reestablishing that relationship. And we have been in contact since that meeting to try to discuss possible future collaborations for advocacy efforts. Also, a meeting was conducted with the ARC of Louisiana and the Community Providers Association and Independent Living Centers to discuss possible advocacy collaboration. Unfortunately, we weren't all four entities weren't able to agree on one advocacy agenda. So we've had to, respectfully agree to disagree, but we all still wanted to continue to possibly maybe in the fall come together and come up with collaborative advocacy efforts so that as a whole that we can affect more change rather than having to advocate independently. Also, myself and Mr. Randall Brown were requested by Empower 225, which is an advocacy group here in the Baton Rouge area, and the Governor's Commission on Human Trafficking to help assist them with some advocacy efforts regarding legislation that they wanted to propose that would increase sentencing for individuals found guilty of human trafficking and or sexual exploitation of persons with a disability. So during that meeting, I had actually recommended that they reach out to Disability Rights of Louisiana, as they were a very close partner with us, a sister agency with us, and that was, directly in line with their mission to protect and advocate for individuals with developmental disabilities. So we made that connection, and I believe Disability Rights of Louisiana indicated that they wanted to assist with the language, drafting correct language for that bill. Then the next page is regarding meetings that staff has attended.
Ms. Nicole Banks has her hand raised. Courtney.
Ms. Banks?
Okay, so I had a question. You said that it's 4 different agencies that are collaborating to come together to get an advocacy, plan going together. What are the other 4 agencies? Maybe did I miss it? Okay, I couldn't see it all. I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem. Do
I
you
couldn't see it all.
do I need to read it aloud, or is this
Oh,
okay?
no. So do you guys are needing ideas, or is it that y'all can't come up with a concise, just one topic?
Well, we're going to meet in the fall, usually probably around when our legislative kickoff meeting occurs with LaCan and Families Helping Families. We're going to try to collaborate with these entities as well, so that we're not all advocating for different things. We can possibly come up with a consolidated advocacy agenda. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. It just a whole one thing that you guys can do, but I hope you guys can get that done in the fall, so y'all not waiting a whole nother year to get things done. So hopefully that you guys can, come up to an agreement, because it's really needed up in some of those areas.
You are correct. Yes, ma'am. Okay. So as you can see, again, these are the meetings that staff has been attending this quarter, followed by meetings that I attended for this quarter.
Ms. Jill Hano has her hand raised.
Ms. Hano?
Do you know or have a record of what bills are out there for the Empower 225?
I believe there were similar bills that were being introduced. I know Representative Pat Moore had proposed a bill that addressed charges against individuals regarding disabilities and sexual assault, but the language in the bill that she had proposed was misleading. And I actually spoke with Representative Moore about that bill, and I believe she intends to actually remove the language that would actually provide harsher sentencing on individuals with disabilities who are found guilty of sexual misconduct or whatnot. So, but I don't think that was the Empower 225 collaboration. I think that was just a separate bill. But no, ma'am, I don't have the bill number for what.
Okay.
For what the 225, Empower 225 group contacted us about.
Cool.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
No problem.
I apologize. Ms. Rosalind Hemel also has her hand raised.
Ms. Heimel, thank you. Rosalind, are you with us? Okay. I don't see her on the screen, Hannah. Am I missing something?
Looks like she must have stepped away.
Okay. So does anyone else have any questions about all of the activities listed on this report? Mr. Rivera?
Hey, good afternoon, Courtney. It's more of a situational awareness to bring to the council's attention, but House Bill 628 by Representative Stefanski. I don't know if y'all following that bill, but essentially it passed out of the House Ways and Means yesterday. And what's of interest to us, the bill in its current posture essentially levies a tax on a new form of gambling in Louisiana called electronic gambling. Apparently you gamble on the phone now, and it's already passed into law, and municipalities have already voted on this and approved this. But what this bill does is essentially put the backbone to how it functions and where the money will go. Of interest to us, it creates a disability fund, and it then goes on to state that a certain percentage of that money will be going to this new disability fund, similar to the New Opportunities Waiver Trust Fund. And from that point, the DD Council, this body, will make a recommendation on how those funds are utilized. So, of course, House Bill 628, none of you have read it yet, but I do want to bring it to the council's attention to really read that bill. Obviously, we need more resources to assist individuals with developmental disabilities to live independently. And, from my personal review of the bill and what I anticipate, I see this as a great opportunity for Louisiana's disability community. So thank you for giving me the time to speak on that. I hope I didn't speak out of context, but I wanted to bring it to your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. And if that is not already on our bill tracking list, we can add that bill to our bill tracking. So thank you for that. Ms. Heimel, now that you've returned, would you like to speak?
I was trying to go and get some help for my Bluetooth. What I wanted to find out with one of them, I forgot which one it was, but is there a way that with the building that for every, well, for the state of Louisiana and that, do we have to raise anything like for the building as we go along with these years, like we did throughout the other years as we went? Or how does that work again?
Okay. So you asked if we have to raise anything with the bills.
Right. Is that on here or not? I mean, for the schooling.
So are you asking if we're advocating for or against any bills that have to deal with education? Is that what you're asking?
I think, wait a minute.
Or tell you what, can I offer this instead? Would you like for me to share my screen to show you what bills we're tracking?
Could you?
Okay, I will do that right now.
Because I don't know how that, and I'm like, that's what I want to find out.
So this is actually on our website right now. If you go to our website, the very first banner you'll see will be for our tracking list. So this is the tracking list.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
Okay.
Wanted to really find out is on that.
Since we intend to get you some information.
Because I knew somewhere. Could I get this one as well?
That's what I was
in my packet.
That's what I was about to recommend. Since we're going to get you some information for next week's meeting, that I can print this out for you and make sure that you get this as well.
Because I don't have nothing. I don't even have my packet. So I'm going to be like asking questions in that because I don't even have a packet. Right. And I'm just going off what's on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be confused along with this meeting.
I can definitely understand a lot of this information is confusing. So thank you for asking questions so that we can provide some more clarification for you. Because it might not just be you that has that question.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
But yes, we can definitely do when we get information to you. Okay.
I don't know if my packet got lost in the mail or maybe I got skipped Oh, what? I don't know.
I can assure you it was mailed, but again, we'll probably have to resort to hand delivering something to you over the weekend possibly. Okay, so we're probably, some of the staff is going to call you, Rosalind, so that we can get this information to you after the meeting today. Okay.
Oh, good. Because I could use all the information.
All right.
That
We're going
I
to
could really.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen, okay?
All right, thank you.
I believe the next item on the agenda, Mr. Chair, is for the budget report.
Yes, it is. And you have the floor there as well.
Sir. All right.
Before we move into the budget, I believe Ms. Kathy Dwyer pointed out in the question and answer section that Representative Butler has alerted her committee that the House Bill 172 is scheduled for House Health and Welfare Committee on Tuesday, April 27th. So that'll be next Tuesday. She put that in the question and answer section. So I wanted to share that before we move into the budget. And now the floor is yours.
No problem.
Budget discussion.
So can everyone read the budget report as it is, or do I need to enlarge it? Ooh, that might be too big.
Larger, please.
Can you enlarge it a little bit so I could read it? Please. I would appreciate.
Yeah, I'm gonna try, but it's so.
I can't read small print.
Gotcha.
For me, it's hard.
How about this? Does this work?
Yeah, for me, yeah.
All right. So I've still been in contact with Judy Fletcher, who is helping us with budget and keeping us on track, and still trying to contact various departments within LDH to assist with, right now it's called, unfortunately, ISIS, to help with moving funds within, or moving charges that we have made to different reporting categories or reporting codes so that our budget report actually reflects accurate information. So last quarter, you guys had asked to see the actual accounts or the funds that we have requested to be moved. And so at the bottom, Ms. Fletcher provided some of that language, or provided the language that you see for what we're trying to move. And I think, is there a question? I thought I saw a hand raised, but I might be mistaken.
Yes, Courtney, I have a question or two.
Yes, ma'am.
So the salaries and the fringe benefits on the top two lines, I'm assuming is what is charged to general overhead. But then there are salaries that are charged to the bottom line contracts. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. The salaries line that you see on the sheet is the total amount of salaries that all of the staff receives.
I thought we were told previously that part of salaries were charged to the contracts.
It's coded. So like all of our advocacy and leadership activities get coded a percentage of staff's time, but the actual funds for staff salaries is separated. So staff's time gets coded by percentage to how much time we spend on contract activities.
But the dollars don't actually come out of the contract.
Correct.
Fund.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Courtney.
Oh yeah, no problem. Did you have another question?
I might. Let me think.
Okay.
Thanks.
Or if you want to email me afterwards, that's fine. Whatever's convenient for you. So yeah, every year staff does a retreat and we kind of look at the plan to see who needs to tackle what and how much time needs to be allocated for things. And so staff does a percentage of activities from, our council plan, and our payroll gets coded by percentage, but we get paid through, it's not taking any funds away from contracts. So again, I hope that makes sense. I'm sorry. Any other questions? I don't know if I can even, no, I didn't even show the whole thing.
Jill Eagley and Rosalind Heimel have their hands raised.
Ms. Heimel?
Yes. When you said with sugar coating, it's like with sugar coating, such as like, what do you mean by when you say that?
Okay.
And the money don't move from this at all? That's my first question.
Yeah, we're trying to get it to move. We've already submitted paperwork to the Department of Health to get the money to move. So every time the DD Council has an expense that has to be paid, there are multiple codes as to how that money is applied, how we pay it. So for instance, we don't just willy-nilly pay things, say for instance, our ink for our printers. We have to specifically indicate by using codes how this money is being spent. So there's reporting categories and there's object codes. It's very technical, a lot of accounting words, and I don't want to confuse you, but if you want to talk with me about it a little more in depth, we can do that at a later time. But does that?
And another, that one, yeah. Now, my second question I do have is I'm seeing on here too from the first quarter, the first and the second and the third quarter, you have at least zeros straight across.
Correct.
Why is that?
Because those monies were allotted for travel.
You have it three more zeros.
Right. So these
underneath some numbers.
Right. So the fund, are you talking about these lines right here that I'm highlighting?
Yeah.
So if
you see how you go, it goes to like 1,000 and then like the first, second quarter.
Right.
And then you have two lines with numbers, then you have three more zeros.
Correct. So those lines are for travel. So actually council meetings is the first one with the 10,000 amount. And that's one of the ones that we're trying to change. We're trying to change that from no money being spent
to what?
To 8,125. So look down here at the bottom. You see I've kind of highlighted it, the 8,125.
Yeah.
So that should be how much we've actually spent up until now in that council meeting line. It should not be zero. It should be the 8,125. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay. So the other lines are for travel. Because of COVID, we have not been traveling. So there's been no money spent towards travel. So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Now, why you don't,
I'm sorry, my sound must be breaking up. I couldn't hear what
you're coming from with, on your perspective.
Okay. Did you have another question?
So would this, yeah, I do, ever change in the future? I mean, from the other years when we can start travel again?
Right. And well, we've still got some time before we have to submit a new budget for next year. But when the new executive director starts, that's probably going to be one of the first things that will need to be discussed is, the monies allotted to accommodate for all this. If we're going to be going back to in person, then we're going to have to make sure that these funds are.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to figure out right there.
Okay.
Is we going to meet up face to face, and what hotel that we'll be going, the new hotel that we'll be going to?
We'll let you know as soon as we.
As well.
We'll let you know.
Okay. Okay then.
Thank
That's
you.
what it is right there. I'm concerned about.
Okay. I believe Ms. Banks, your hand was raised next. Ms. Banks, we can't hear you. I can see your mouth moving though.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry,
Can
I
you-
had it double muted. I'm sorry. Ms. Jill had her hand raised first, so I'll let her go first.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
Jill Ingley, and then I was after her, and then is the other Ms. Jill.
Thank you, Ms. Banks. Okay, so Ms. Eagley, we can't hear you.
I don't know if you hear this on the news. The Center and the Disease Control, first of all, is saying whomever got vaccinated can travel, but y'all have to follow what the governor says for the emergency proclamation in order to make the change if we're going to ever do in person in October or next fiscal year. Is that correct?
So I believe Mr. Chair has already stated that as long as we're under a public health emergency declared by the governor, that we will not be conducting in-person activities. So once that has been lifted, then we will be able to resume in-person activities.
And yeah, and it was stated earlier today, it was extended 90 days. What does that mean? Is that funding in the legislative session? What does that mean?
That was not regarding funding for the legislation. Sorry.
But I just wondered when they said extended 90 days, does that mean through June, July fiscal government year? I mean, what's going on? I'm just a little concerned myself.
Okay, so you're talking about something that Mr.
If I may, the 90 days is like for 3 months, Jill.
So
on that, because for me, I had to wait 90 days before I got tested again.
Okay.
How that one right there would work. I don't know how that works, but
so ladies,
you know,
do either of you have any questions about this budget report?
90 days, that's July 21st from today. I'm a little worried, Miss Courtney. I don't know what's going on. I just want to make sure that everything's going to be okay with the DD Council in the future.
Okay. So Ms. Eagley, if we can speak with you after the council meeting or maybe during lunch break.
Thank you.
Do you happen to have any questions about the budget report?
Oh, no. I mean, the budget, I guess, obviously you guys, that follows the federal government, correct? Coming like this June 1st or July 1st for next fiscal 2022 year, correct?
This budget report is regarding the state fiscal year, which runs from July 1st through June 30th.
Okay. I'll let y'all get back on. Okay.
Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry. Ms. Banks, was it you again or is it Ms. Haynes?
Yes, it's me. Okay, so the question I had, when I'm looking at the salaries and stuff, did we fire somebody is why it went down like it did, or did somebody leave?
Correct. We are down to 6 staff when we typically have 8 staff. So executive director retired in January of 2019. And then the deputy director who became interim executive director retired in August of 2019. So we lost the executive director and the deputy director. And so that's why next week is very crucial to hire a new executive director.
Yeah. Well, count me
Gotcha.
in, I'll be in on that meeting. Wow.
I'm working on it.
No problem. Okay. Any other questions about the budget report?
No, ma'am, Ms. Courtney.
Thank you, Ms. Eagley. Ms. Hayno? Jill, did you have a question?
Can people mute themselves when they're not talking? I can't hear a word, anything anybody says. And I do have a question about the budget. If that's still the topic.
It is.
And I ask you this all the time, and so this budget report is the state fiscal year, correct?
You are
so
correct.
when is this due to the feds? June 30th?
So the budget report isn't due to the feds. We give reporting on our activities and our state plan, which that will be due in August because it'll be the first year of the new 5-year plan. So in August, I'll have to submit the 5-year plan and other reports and our action plan, but we don't provide a budget report to the.
So wait, then hold on. I'm so confused. Is this due to the state? No.
This isn't due to anyone but ourselves. This is for the council.
Jill, these are our expenses. These are our operating expenses to be able to carry out our business.
Any other questions? And I'm sorry if I'm confusing with answering questions. This has been very much a learning experience for myself and other staff. Okay, then hearing none, sir, I'd like to hand the meeting back over to you, Mr. Brown.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for your questions with regard to Courtney's report and the budget report. Now that concludes those two items. And so now we will move into our standing committee reports. And the first report we have to be given is the Act 378 Subcommittee. And the chair of the subcommittee is Ms. Bambi Polizzola. And so Bambi, you have the floor to give your report.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that.
All right. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. The Act 378 Subcommittee met yesterday, and we do not have any recommendations for the council to consider. We did spend time reviewing the fiscal year 21 third quarter data for programs within the offices for citizens with developmental disabilities, behavioral health, and aging and adult services, which is through the ARC of Louisiana. These reports can be found on the council's website under the council meetings section if you would like to review. If you recall, during the last subcommittee, Act 378 subcommittee meeting update, I mentioned that the committee had discussed at length some concerns about the amount for the individual and family support, or IFS dollars, being spent on vocational and employment services and supports. OCDD was able to analyze some of the information collected over the past year and determined and determine the fiscal impact of moving individuals to a waiver for the supports would be significant even with matching dollars. So it was also explained that the current rule would not allow recipients to simply be given a waiver to free up some of those IFS dollars. Each individual situation is different. So it was explained that an individual must be deemed as having either an urgent or an emergent need in the screening for unmet needs, which is the SUN assessment. And since IFS dollars can fluctuate, screeners have taken into consideration that the person's situation could change. So the department has also had concerns that should all individuals currently receiving these employment supports move to a waiver, they may be taking a waiver from someone with unmet needs. We also learned that the amount of individuals having unmet needs for the SUN assessment has nearly doubled. Also, when we started discussing the fiscal year 20 IFS requests and expenditures by service report, which we have talked about over the last few meetings, we identified some discrepancies in spending of IFS funds across the regions based on the different service categories. So for instance, one region spent over $150,000 on incontinence supplies, and another region only spent $4,300. So the department agreed to continue to analyze this report and share it at future meetings with LGE directors to determine if a cause for these discrepancies can be found. The committee was hoping the information in this report and discussions amongst LGEs would prove to be useful to the LGEs as they discuss what their peers at other LGEs are doing to help meet the needs of families in their respective regions. And that is the end of the report. Any questions?
You have a question from the public for Ms. Kathy Dwyer.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, Bambi. I had participated or listened to the meeting yesterday, and something just occurred to me that I don't remember if I asked or not, but as chair of the OCDD State Advisory Committee, we are going to start tracking how the regions do in transitioning children from early steps to DD services. Is that something that would fall under your committee as well?
That's a part of Act 378, but I could be wrong. Can someone help with that?
No, you're correct, Bambi. It's not dealing with Act 378 funding.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Which is there a committee that would address the early intervention transitioning to DD services?
I think that would be our education committee usually discusses the early steps program.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. I appreciate you sharing that.
Are there any other questions regarding Bambi's report? Hearing none, thank you, Bambi. Your report will be entered into the record, and since no votes were needed, thank you very much, and we'll move to our next committee report. And that is Miss Mary Tarver, the Education and Employment Committee. So Mary, you have the floor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Brown. I don't believe Ms. Tarver has been able to join us today.
Okay, did she designate someone to give her report in her place?
I was not made aware.
Okay. Well, we will, did she give a report for our packets, obviously?
Let me see with staff if a report had been created.
In the meantime, let me call on Mr. Mike Billings, our Self-Determination and Community Inclusion Committee Chair. Sir, you have the floor if you're ready to give your report today.
Hey, good morning, everyone. The Self-Determination and Community Inclusion Committee met Monday, and we have no recommendations to present to the council. We did receive updates on contractual and non-contractual activities and goals 1 and 2 of the council's FY21 action plan. I encourage you all to review the status update document that we receive quarterly for specific updates on each activity. But here's a few of the things that I want to mention regarding the partners in policymaking. The PIP coordinator, Adrian Thomas, joined us and provided an update on the 2021 class. As you may recall, we decided the 2020 class would repeat this year virtually. However, some of the class members of the 2020 class expressed concerns about virtual participation and requested that they be allowed to repeat the missed classes in person when it's safe to do so. Randall had mentioned that he would follow up with the executive director of the Minnesota Council, where partners has started, where it was started, to find out how they've been handling their classes due to COVID and seek additional guidance because they apparently have resumed their classes. We also received an update on videos, our video initiative and concerns. We received about the lack of diversity in the first video, specifically as related to the lack of people of color, persons of color. The contractor has also started working on a second video that will be a continuation of the first video and has assured us that they will be ensuring diversity in their productions, and it's of the utmost importance. Dustin Chandler with the Interaction Advisory Group provided the committee with information about efforts to establish pilot programs in multiple regions, across the state on first responder tactics, approaches, and resources in fostering relationships with and dealing with individuals with developmental disabilities, and training for people with developmental disabilities on how to interact with first responders. So far, the trainings have been well received, but the demand is greater than the monthly trainings currently included in the council's contract with IAG. Due to the demand, IAG has offered additional trainings at no expense to the council. We did have conversations about the need to further promote these trainings. We also received an update on Act 421, Children's Medicaid option. This is, of course, the Louisiana's program designed to serve the TEFRA population. As of now, the department has still not received approval for program implementation from CMS, so their original April-May timeframe may be delayed. We also continued our discussions about the Appendix K waiver exceptions that were implemented at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. OCDD held a listening session recently to discuss plans for home and community-based waiver services after COVID-19 public health emergency ends and solicit feedback on those plans. Over 200 individuals participated in the call for providers, and over 400 participated in the call for families and self-advocates. Many of the participants expressed the need to continue the exception that allows close relatives to continue to serve as direct support workers. Julie also shared the Office of Community Partnerships and Health Equity within the Louisiana Department of Health is hosting an upcoming webinar event discussing COVID-19 and its impact on persons with disabilities and providers. This information session will be held Friday, April the 23rd from 1:30 to 2:30. A council news was sent on Monday with the registration information. And that's all I have to report. And does anyone have any questions?
Miss Rosalind Heimel has her hand raised.
Yes, Rosalind.
Yeah, when you was mentioning a lot of, when you kind of read from the top in that, with parents, is that considered with parents with their child, or is it with SPs with their clients, or how does that work?
For the home and community-based waiver services, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, yes.
So right now
I
there's
am.
an exception that allows for close relatives to serve as the direct support workers due to the waiver for the pandemic. So that's been for the Appendix K waiver. That's been extended for the 90 days. But there's a lot of interest in having that extended permanently, and they're working to see if that can be done.
Aye, for the 90 days. How is that, like 3 months with the extension to it, or
Yeah, it's my
how
understanding they
does
can
that
only,
work?
it's my understanding they can only extend that 90 days at a time.
So does that lead into like months at a time, or
That's
is
90
it
days. It's 90
with
days.
the extension?
90 days is 3 months, and I believe that gets us through to the end of July.
Wow.
But Julie can speak more on that when they get to the agency reports.
That's what I wanted to find out. So does that still work for group homes as well? If you're living in a group home? Or living with your parents as well?
That would be in a home and community-based situation where you have a family member providing care.
I wasn't sure about that because my my aunt and uncle kind of takes good care of me for that, and I was like wondering if they could, is it the same way if you have your aunt and uncle provide, like for me, and that could that work as well?
I couldn't speak to your specific. You would probably have to reach back to your agency provider.
All right. I was just, kind of asking. I just use myself, that kind of way, as a family member. Because I have two as a family member who takes care of me. I don't even have a provider at all. Not what I know of.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Any other questions with regard to Mike's report?
You have a hand raised in the public, Miss Christina.
Go ahead, Christina.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Billings, Mike. I spoke at the meeting that you had the other day, and I want to thank you again for representing that today to everybody. I am part of the Partners in Policymaking class that got to start for 2020 and abruptly had to stop, just like the rest of the world, in March. And I just wanted to be here again to represent my classmates. I spoke to a bunch of them, and they also were going to try their very hardest to be here today. I don't know. I can't see on my end if who's here except for the council members on the screen. So I'm not sure if anybody's here again, but I just wanted to let all the council members know that we weren't aware of the ad hoc committee forming. And so we were unable to be present and let you guys know how we had felt going forward. And I just think that virtually it would just be very difficult for all of us. Several of our members, I want to say at least 3 or 4, have said that they will not be moving forward at all to graduate if it continues virtually. So I would really love if the council would consider to allow us. I understand that this year we might not get to anything in person, and that's unfortunate for all of us, but that when we can come together in person, that our class be given the opportunity to maybe have first pick of the classmates for 2022's class. I love the partners experience. I'm getting a little emotional. I miss my class so much. And I know how much it all means to us to be able to really see this through. So thank you guys so much. And yeah, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Christina.
Miss Kim.
Mike, give me just a moment here to comment.
Sure, Randall.
As I said, and then Kim will get to your question. As I said yesterday in the self-determination meeting, I will check with the Minnesota Council and their director to see what protocols they have used, and see if they have any suggestions or pointers we can use to better accommodate you. As far as the ad hoc committee, we did publicize it. I apologize that the class wasn't aware, but it was publicly known through our social media and other venues. But I thank you, Christina, for bringing your perspective to our attention yesterday and today. And you have my commitment to look into the matter further and see what, if anything, we can do to accommodate your class as well as any moving forward in this pandemic phase we're in. And I want to thank the partners ad hoc committee for their work as well on the matter. So, all right, thank you, Christina, very much for your perspective. Are there any other questions for Mike on his report?
Miss Lillian Dejon has her hand raised.
Yes, Lillian, you have the floor. Good morning.
Hey y'all, so I'm gonna have to hop right back off shortly. My grandfather's in from out of state, but I did want to visit this meeting for this specific discussion. So I guess my question to you guys today is, who ultimately gets to decide what happens with the PIP class from this point forward? Is it the PIP ad hoc committee that decides whether they will continue virtually or with the Minnesota-like structure?
That would at this point be an executive committee decision.
Okay.
We'll take into consideration the work of the ad hoc committee as it was done. And I'll look into, as I've stated, how Minnesota's moving forward and look into maybe some other states as well if I get some research on it, and add that to the discussion. But that will ultimately be an executive committee decision.
Okay. So can I have another turn?
Yes, absolutely.
It was really poignant to me at the Self-Determination and Inclusion Committee, Miss Christina's input regarding the PIP class and how the PIP class currently is losing their enthusiasm for the class through the virtual format. And I will repeat what I expressed at the committee meeting the other day. I think it's really important for us and now the executive committee to recognize that the point of PIP is to ignite that fire and advocates. At the end of the day, whenever you advocate, it doesn't matter really how much you know, really the passion has to be there. That's your foundation. And so I think we should really, really, really heed the warning of our PIP class. I know we are creatures of habit on this council. We have stayed stagnant for over 40 years now in the way that we do things. So I would just heavily, heavily encourage the executive committee to listen to our public. And I trust that our executive committee will make the right decision moving forward, but I did just want to emphasize that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I promise you, we do hear your concern as well as the class's concern. A lot of things do appear stagnant due to a lot of factors, but I want to be clear, we're about to have a change of leadership here at the very top of our council very shortly. And so I expect a lot of things to move forward quickly once that happens, to begin to move forward. So I don't want us to lose hope, not only on our partners' endeavors, but also on all of our work. We're doing our best to move forward during a pandemic, which is difficult for everyone across the world, as we all know and are living through. But then also we have 2 vacancies, not just one, in the top of our council management side. We've done the very best we can to try to ensure all activities and programs are met the best way we can. And I'm committed to making sure everyone is heard and everyone's appreciated. But I thank Christina for her comments, both yesterday or the other day at self-determination and today. I certainly hear you. We certainly hear you. I know that the executive committee shares I'm a PIP graduate as well. So I understand exactly what the feeling is when you cannot resume something that you had anticipated being able to do. And unfortunately, that's just where we are due to the pandemic. So, but we definitely hear you, and we will definitely look at all available information and try our best to meet the needs. And we certainly don't want anyone losing their passion or enthusiasm for this or any realm of advocacy. So I know it's been a rough year for everyone, and particularly for our council. So I just encourage everyone, please hang in there. Things are about to get better soon. So just thank you so much, and I'll yield the floor.
You have Liz Gary and Kathy Dwyer, both with their hands raised.
Okay, Liz, you have the floor.
Hi, Randall. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I just wanted to reiterate I know for 11 years I coordinated partners in policymaking, and one of my passions the entire time was the ability to have in person. There were lots of conversations over the years from the council and from staff talking about the possibility of doing some virtual. This was before, COVID took place. And I was highly against it and highly opposed to it because I knew that it would lose what's given when you're in person. And I know that many of you who are partners graduates also know that feeling of how important it was, not only during the sessions to be present, but also the bonding time that occurred over meals and also after the sessions. So I would definitely, I really want to instill how important it is. And I know I was on the ad hoc committee. I know I voted for the partial virtual, but it by no means was my favorite thing. And now that this has occurred and they're expressing their concerns and we're already into April, I think you have an opportunity to move forward with some of the regional meetings that we had talked about, as well as preparing for your 2022 class. Because as you might know, by June, you better be ready for the applications to start being present and things rolling in, because by September 30th, all that goes in. So there's a lot of work that can be done and give them the opportunity. The only other thing I'll say is that in the past, when anyone would not be able to fulfill their obligation from the January through June, if they dropped off in February or March because of some reason that they couldn't continue, we did give them first opportunity to look at them. We didn't guarantee anything, but we did give them the first opportunity to review them as being able to continue the next year's class as a full class again. So I just wanted to share that, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Liz. And again, we'll take all of it under consideration. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else?
Yes, Ms. Kathy Dwyer.
Oh, yes. Ms. Kathy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Randall. I just want to express my appreciation to you and the council for having to handle so many things with two major staff missing, and appreciate Courtney filling in and having to learn everything. I've worked for a state agency for 25 years and now I'm retired, so I kind of know all the little details with budget preparations and so forth. But during these times with the pandemic, it's been hard on all of us. I mean, I know from my perspective as a older senior, I hate to say that word, but senior, raising a young lady with multiple disabilities and not having the support, because my first priority is protecting her. And I just want to remind everyone that as much as we all need that in-person contact and how valuable it is, we've got to get through this pandemic first. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, but our DD population is a high-risk population, and we need to always keep that in mind, and keep in mind the parents that are older that are even high risk, taking care of them. And if we could just get through, hang on, find ways, best ways you can to try to get through these times when it feels so distant, I think we can all get back. And I definitely want to applaud all that Partners has done. I haven't been able to participate in it. At some point, I wish they would open it up to us older folks. But I think over the years, I've kind of learned a good bit just from fellow parents who have graduated from Partners, and appreciate all that. So just hang on. I feel for everybody and appreciate everybody's efforts in trying to pull everything together during these challenging times.
Thank you, Ms. Kathy, for those comments, and we certainly thank you for your praise. I know the staff is doing everything we possibly can to conduct ourselves as best we can through this pandemic. And I've said repeatedly yesterday at the last executive committee meeting and throughout lately that we will follow the governor's public health emergency. And that is due to the fact that we are a high risk population. So, I'm very mindful as your chair as we move forward. I know I'm as tired of this separation and divide and Zoom era that we're living in as anyone else. But our first and foremost consideration as your leadership has to be the safety of everyone's health. I mean, we literally lost our leader to COVID. I don't have to remind y'all of that, I know. But so that has been foremost in my mind from the moment I assumed the chairmanship, and remains so. I have to be certain that we are safe as a population as we move forward. And I know it's difficult, and I know it's been so long. It's been over a year since we've been able to gather together and participate together. And I thank you all for your participation this way, and we're doing the best we can. And I really appreciate all of you. I want to make that very clear. And that's not just council members. That's not limited to just our members. That's all of our community coming together, working together, collaborating, getting ideas out there for these activities as we move forward. We're doing the best we can. And I really thank everybody for their patience. And again, come April 28th, we start a whole new chapter in our management. So I look forward to good things ahead, and the pandemic will eventually be subsided. And when it does, I have no doubt we will move forward with a brand new purpose. And I think we'll all be elated just to be able to see one another in person. And I'll be glad to see everyone. So thank you all. And again, I yield the floor.
Miss Lillian Dejean has her hand raised.
Yes, Lillian, you have the floor.
Sorry to interrupt again. So
No.
I also look forward to the day that we'll finally be able to actually see each other in person and eat together again and go to the hotel and not have to be on Zoom. In the meantime, I think for the sake of our PIP class, I know that at the Self-Determination and Inclusion Committee, I suggested that they be specifically invited to the PIP ad hoc committee via email instead of just having to look on the website. But since since this decision now will be in the hands of the executive committee, it may be a good and kind of considered idea to probably email the PIP class when that executive committee meeting will be taking place, so they can attend that. So just a suggestion.
I actually have that on my list to do, Eileen, so thank you for that.
All right, well, I'm gonna run now, but it was great seeing everybody.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for your service.
Nice to see you again, Lindsay. Lillian.
What, are we just like not good of friends anymore that you can't remember my name? Like,
it's been so long. I had to pick on you.
Oh, sure. Okay, bye.
All right, Lindsay.
Okay.
All right, Lynn.
Okay. All right, everyone. It is lunchtime. With no objection, we will adjourn for 1 hour for lunch. It's currently 12:02. So at 1:02 p.m., we will return to resume today's business. So we're having a recess now for